think a lot of people who do well as freelancers do well because they run their freelance business as a business, and they understand that they need to continually market their services. I think one of the extreme ways to find clients, I think it's extreme, is cold calling. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is you don't have to do that. There's a much better way that takes a lot of the good stuff from cold calling and applies it differently in a way that would work very effectively, especially if you're more of an introvert, where the idea of cold calling someone just feels a little yucky. So, I guess we should probably start there, because I know this is what a lot of people are asking themselves. Well, why is it so effective? The first reason that it's a much better strategy than something, say, as cold calling someone out of the blue, is that it's less intrusive. In general, prospects are much more receptive to a strong, relevant email message than they are to a cold call. So when done correctly, the way I'm going to show you, these short email messages get read all the way, which means that you can deliver your message without the standard defenses that the prospects are going to put up every time somebody calls them with a pitch.
Okay.
So the third reason is that email is just a better medium for delivering a relevant and personalized message. I mean, it's just easier to digest a marketing message when you see it in writing than when you get it over the phone.
And is that even true of people who receive, hundreds of emails every day?
Yes. It doesn't mean that if you send out 10 emails, you're going to get 8 responses. Not at all. The fact is, most people are not going to respond. So you have to accept that. But, when you think about the fact that, you send out 100 emails over the course of a week or two, and you could get 5 or 10 responses, and they're probably going to be very good responses. Those aren't bad odds.
Yeah, I mean, that could potentially keep you going for the whole year, those 5 responses.
Exactly, because as freelancers, one good client could keep us busy for a long time. And as you start getting results, you'll feel even better about using this as a long-term business-building strategy. And then the final reason is that email prospecting is ineffective. I mean, you don't have postage costs. You don't have to leave your office. Heck, you don't even have to pay for a list. You can build one from scratch yourself. You can manually compile one. But you have to do it right. There's not a lot of room for error here. So the right approach to take is what I call warm email prospecting.
John, could you tell us how we can use referrals to get more work?
To answer your question, Tim, I think we need to first understand what a referral is. And this is a definition that works with many of the professionals I work with. It's an introduction, and it looks like an introduction, but it's actually either an explicit or an implicit recommendation. And very often the difficulty with referrals and asking for referrals and whatever is too many professionals start with the relationship, with the referral. And actually, the real, the crux of referrals is not about conversation, it's about needs and understanding what those needs are and why they exist. So the kind of foundation block for today, if you like, is that in order to have referrals conversations, we absolutely must be able to have needs conversations. Too many people feel that when they go into a conversation, they're going to be talking about them and their work. And actually, that's not the ideal way into a referral conversation. The easiest and the easiest way to practice into a client conversation is about client need. So to give an example, suppose that I'm doing some training and development with a division of an organization. I can, of course, begin the conversation with who else or what other divisions in this organization could I be working with. Of course I could. But I'll be very honest with you, I have the same problem starting that conversation that the 84% do. I would find it really difficult to begin a conversation from that point. What I can do, though, is let's assume that I'm working with them, as I often am these days, on new ways of getting business or new ways of uncovering opportunity in the marketplace. I might well say, what other divisions of the organization also have this challenge of uncovering opportunity in the marketplace? i.e. that's not a question about me. Now, they're not daft. Some of them will know where it's going. But I find it easy enough to get started with a question that says, who else has these needs? Or, apart from strategy, what other challenges and issues are getting in the way of getting business in the current economy? However I phrase it, as long as the conversation's about them, as opposed to about me.
Hi, Matt.
Hi there, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you very much. So you're going to tell us some winning strategies for pitches and interviews for getting more work as a freelancer.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. And I guess what I want to cover initially is some common mistakes that people make in client pitches and interviews. One of them is very much rambling, and I'm not talking about the outdoor kind. I'm talking about not being able to verbalize what it is that you do, or to talk through examples in a structured fashion. Another very common mistake that people make is they talk about we. Now, it's great to be modest, and I think because of that we're almost socially conditioned not to talk about I. Actually, in an interview, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to talk about I. I get this all the time when I interview people. They kind of seem intent on telling me what their team did. I almost feel like saying, well, look, sorry, I'm not interviewing your team here. I'm interviewing you. Please talk about you. Another situation is, I guarantee that pretty much every single person out there, whether they're applying for a permanent job, or whether they're applying for or whether they're pitching for a contract, they will do too little preparation. And we'll cover preparation again a little bit later on in the presentation. I have no idea why, but people typically go along to an interview adopting exactly the same demeanor they would if they were going to a funeral, as if I don't know why, but they do, and it's quite depressing if you interview a lot of people. It's amazing what a smile can do. And then I've put the point here, is it an interview or a client meeting? Well, it's whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be an interview and just a standard Q&A, fine, go and do that. But if you want to turn it into a client meeting, and see it as a sales call, you absolutely have the opportunity to do that. You can turn it into that if you really use the right techniques, and we'll cover that during this workshop. Okay, so moving on. How to stop rambling.
Now, selling is incredibly easy. You couldn't find a simpler set of steps if you tried, and hopefully I'm going to convey those simple set of steps. I also want you to get into your psyche that even if you've got a big project, to keep in mind that you touch base with the customers out there. Even spending 2 hours a week is going to keep what's called the pipeline alive. The customers knowing you're there and not picking another contractor. Now, of course, if you're working through an agency, then it's slightly different. You want to make sure the agency knows you're still there, knows you're still keen, knows your latest testimonials, your latest case studies. So this is actually an exercise of communication. That's all. So if you don't like the word sales, then don't think of it as sales. Think of it as communication. That's all it's about. So the first thing to do, I do with every single business, is put together a mission statement. Now, I'll have to apologize. I put the Crunch's mission in here, but this will give you a really good clue, and it's so worth doing, because you put it together for your contracting business and it somehow manages to take hold. It's well worth doing it for your business. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to be the best in the UX market? Do you want to be the ultimate Prince 2 project manager? Put that statement there, and you will live by that. And hopefully, it's all about just supreme service delivery, and that will help you deliver that service. It looks so simple, but it is so powerful, and you'll be surprised at how few people actually do that. And they drift and they run across a number of different areas, and they could be one area that really is the one that gets them out of bed in the morning, and the one they should be focusing on, and actually the one that makes them the most money, yet they let other projects drift in that don't interest them at all. Getting ready to sell. This is all about collateral and being easily found. You have to have the collateral to sell yourself. So the first thing, and I took a bit of time for this presentation, talking to some big recruitment agencies as well in contracting, and asked them, what do they expect, if the contractor's working through them, and what would make them, what would encourage them to place that contractor more? And the first thing they said was they must